we are gonna do some powdered, I'm gonna make some veggie powder. Like I said, dehydrate and freeze dry. I have quite a bit of dehydrated vegetables that I dug out of the extended pantry, because I knew they were a couple years old and I wanted to make sure they did not go to waste. 2 years is pretty much stretching it with dehydrated things. So although they were sealed, many of them have moisture packets in them, not oxygen absorbers, although that would have been fine too, but the moisture packets for things that were high moisture that I was afraid may not keep, like tomatoes with seeds, you know, that sort of thing. So anyway, I just thought I would take you along with me and show you how I make veggie powder. And I use this veggie powder I put it in soups and stews and just about anything, just to add some more nutrition and bulk it up. You know, a tablespoon or two of it doesn't really give it much flavor, but it gives it a lot of punch of nutrition, vitamins and minerals and all the things in those vegetables. And 2 tablespoons, as you will see when we do this, is a lot of vegetables, a lot of vegetables. Once it's all dried and compacted down into the little fine powder, there's a lot of veggies in a tablespoon. So a lot of nutrition in a tablespoon. So anyway, let's get going here. Let me show you. These are all the veggies that I pulled out that I dehydrated and have not used. These are all dated 7, 8, and 9 of 2020, so they need to be used. I have this whole row right here of zucchini slices, and I have, right now, I'm in the middle of making another video, but I have a dehydrated zucchini lasagna in the oven right now, which I'm making a video, so watch for that. And I'm going to save these zucchini until after that lasagna comes out, and if I love it, then I'm not going to powder these. But if it's then I will go ahead and powder them and mix it with the rest of the powder. So I have here, I'm going to keep my tomatoes separate because I make tomato powder. And here is some of that tomato powder, and as you see, I've got, maybe you can't see, but I do have a moisture thing in there, but yeah, you can kind of see it right there. But anyway, this tomato powder, I don't want to open it because it's sealed, but this tomato powder is just beautiful, and it can be used in anything that you make tomatoes. Like, you can make tomato sauce out of it, you can make tomato paste, you can make pizza sauce, you can add it to soups to give it that tomato richness. You can make tomato gravy. Whatever you use tomato sauce or pureed tomatoes or tomato paste or whatever, it just all depends on how much water you put with it. There's no seasonings in this, so you can do whatever you want to with it. It makes great chili, makes great vegetable soup, it makes great spaghetti sauce. It just does it all. It does it all. So I have 1 jar of this that I'm getting ready to open soon, but I'm still working on a small jar in my cupboard. And then I have all these little sliced cherry tomatoes that need to be powdered up so that I can use that as well, because I use that powder a lot. I never find myself using these. So I know for next time. And I have some freeze-dried yellow tomatoes that I chopped up for diced tomatoes, and I use these all the time. However, I have a good stock of them, and it's summer, and so I'm going to be having tomatoes. I've got 20 tomato plants for 2 people. Anyway, well, I mean, I have my daughter and son-in-law and their 4 kids live next door, so I mean, it's 8 people really. But yeah, 20 tomato plants, and so I'm going to have plenty of these. So I'm going to go ahead and powder these up as well, because that is what I seem to use the most of if I'm not using fresh tomatoes. But you know what? I have used the bejeebies out of these chopped up ones. I just run them through the food processor and give them a rough chop. I don't mush them into oblivion. I leave them as chunky as I can get them in there, and then I freeze dry them. You could do the same thing in the dehydrator, but they would have a slightly harder texture to them. It would take more cooking to soften them up, and in the freeze dryer they soften right up. So, but I haven't opened a can of diced tomatoes in forever because I use these. And I mean, I have some diced tomatoes in the extended pantry for emergencies or for whatever, but I don't use them. I use these. So as long as I can freeze dry my tomatoes, that's the way it'll be, because they're awesome. Okay, so let's get started, and I will show you how this is done. Now, I have a Vitamix, and it does kind of take a strong blender or food processor, but I would imagine most could handle powdering. And these are all sealed, so I'm going to have to unseal them. I got this from Pampered Chef. It works really well at opening twist jars that are stuck and popping off lids without creating any damage. Now, these lids, I can tell this one here was brand new. It was never used. But that was back when I first got started with dehydrating a couple years ago, and didn't know any better. But now I reuse my lids for my canned things that I'm going to seal that are dry. I would never, I can't say I would never recan with one of these. If it was in good condition and I needed to, I would. No shame in that if there are no lids to be found, but unless I needed to, I would not. But I do keep my good lids for purposes just like this. Now this one had one of these. I don't know if you can see that. It's called Dry and Dry is the brand I'm using. It's a silica gel pack, and you see how it's pink? When I put that in there, it was deep sapphire blue. This means that it has sucked up the moisture. Or a lot of times I'll open them and they'll still be that deep blue or just a lighter blue, which tells me that there wasn't much moisture to pull out of there, but this one pulled some moisture out. And it's very, I don't know if you can hear it. Let's see if you can hear it. It's very hard and crunchy. This is shredded zucchini. And I use quite a bit of this too in cooking and cakes and things like that, or breads, stews, soups. I've used that a lot. So I'm just going to start dumping these vegetables. This is my least favorite way to do green beans, but a lot of people do it. See, this one turned pink as well, so it's a good thing I did that. But these are green beans, and these are really hard and crunchy as well, and they just don't rehydrate the way I want them to. Again, they're fine in soups and stews, but to just make green beans, they're kind of tough and chewy, and they never bounce back to the whole size. So I have found I'm not using them. So again, trial and error on what you like and what you don't like. You don't know till you try. Okay, had to get my poker here. So I'm going to put my lid on. This little sucker will just poke things down. This is kind of a loud blender, so bear with. But this literally just grinds them. You see that powder flying up. Whew! See the powder? But that just grinds it into oblivion. So I'm going to put that in a bowl, because once I get them all done, I'm going to mix them together really well. And then on to the next batch. I've got cabbage, mixed greens, carrots. Now these mixed greens, I love these and I've used these a lot, but they make particularly good powder. This is spinach, kale, Swiss chard, cabbage leaves, broccoli leaves, kohlrabi leaves, and they make a great healthy mixed green. So I'm going to go ahead and finish getting these all ground up, and then I'll come back and show you what I'm going to do with them. Okay, so we got all that done, and I wanted to show you what it looks like and then where I go from there. But I also thought, you know, I wanted to show you this little tip. So I always use a Sharpie and write what everything is on the lid, and most people just can't get that off. Well, let me show you what I do. This is rubbing alcohol, about 2/3 rubbing alcohol and a third vinegar, just to dilute the smell of the alcohol. Actually, it doesn't really do any more than the alcohol does. Vinegar cleans, but it does not disinfect. Rubbing alcohol disinfects. This is 91%. Use whatever kind you want, but I use this mixture on my stove and on my stainless to keep it shiny and fingerprints and stuff. But rubbing alcohol has nothing to do with the vinegar that's in here, and you don't ever even have to put vinegar. I just think it cuts the sharp smell of alcohol. But rubbing alcohol will take this right off. So you just put a little rubbing alcohol on there and leave it sit for a second or two until you see the ink start to get smudgy. And then you take, if it's too wet, it won't come off, but I just usually use the back of my sponge. Ta-da! Works every time. So that's how you can keep your lids looking nice. Okay, now back to what we were doing. So here I have all the mixed greens, the green beans, the, golly, what did I have in here? The shredded zucchini, the shredded and diced carrots. That's what that is on top. I had a jar of shredded cabbage. And so I think I'm going to throw this back in here and make sure that it gets mixed up thoroughly. So let's do that, because I think it can do a much better job much quicker than I can. I have got some carrots down there at the bottom that are not wanting to mix in, so let's see if we can't move them around a bit. Much better. Okay, so that's what we've got. It's beautiful. And you can make smoothies with this. You can just make like a veggie juice. A lot of times I'll take like a half a teaspoon of this and a half a teaspoon of tomato powder and make like a V8 kind of thing, which I thoroughly enjoy. You can just use it in anything. Now here's the next step to this. You could leave it like that, just leave it like this, but honestly, it's warm to the touch. And I am concerned that if I jar that up, warm to the touch, that I'm going to end up with moisture. And because it's already warm, as it cools, it's probably going to create moisture. So I am going to take it, and if you just leave it cool, it'll probably be all right if you're going to use it in a fairly short term, like over the next few months. But I don't know how fast I'm going to go through this. I still want it to stay fresh. So I'll still probably put one of my moisture packets in there and seal it back up because I have an open jar of veggie powder. And but in the meantime, I am going to put this on trays, on my dehydrator trays, and I'm going to dehydrate it again for about an hour just to make sure that all the moisture is out. So this is not necessarily a step you have to take, but if you have a dehydrator, which you obviously would, or you wouldn't have these dehydrated vegetables, then why not? Why not be sure that you're getting all the moisture out so that it's going to last you a long time? And this is a great way to have some nutrition, some vitamins and minerals should there come a time when vegetables are hard to get. You know, they're talking food shortages and droughts and just all kinds of stuff. So why not be prepared to make sure that your family has not only the veggies to use in different dishes, but powders to make sure. See, this is a little clumpy, which tells me there's a little moisture in there. Otherwise, it shouldn't clump like that. It should just be powder. So, why not, guys? Why not make sure? And if you're growing a garden, then this is one way to preserve your food. And if you're not growing a garden, then go to your farmers markets. Although I highly recommend that you do grow a garden. The more self-sustainable, self-sufficient you are, the less reliant you are on others who may not have things available. Sorry about that. And just the more secure you are. I think food security is really, really important in this day and age. And you know what? That's not a new concept. You know, people talk about crazy preppers and all that kind of stuff, but is that what you called your great-grandparents? Is that what they were called, crazy preppers? No, they were called prepared. It was called normal. It's what people did to survive. And they always made sure that they had a minimum of 1 year, and almost always, if possible, 2 years of canned goods on the shelf that they home canned themselves. Things that they home preserved themselves. Because they lived too far from home, the weather got too bad, the financing was pretty slim back then. You know, back then it was the basics in the grocery stores. And I'm afraid it might be that again someday, for at least a while. So why not be prepared? So anyway, that's what I do, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and put these in the dehydrator for about an hour. And then I'm gonna jar them up and seal them up with my little jar sealer that fits on my food saver. And if you don't have one of those, then throw in an oxygen absorber. And let me show you what the finished product looks like. I have some in my cupboard. That's what the finished product looks like. I dumped that in on top of some tomato powder and it stuck to the bottom. But anyway, and I just use the heck out of this just to add more nutrition to a dish, or to make juice, or to do whatever I want to do with it. So anyway, guys, that's what you can do with some of your dehydrated or freeze-dried veggies, and that's how you make veggie powder. So I hope that you enjoyed this. Please share this with anyone who might have any interest, and I will leave a link to my dehydrator. I love my dehydrator. It is nothing fancy. It's not a $400 Excalibur. I think you can get them for about 150 bucks on Amazon, and I'll leave the link to mine. I have been using this. This is 3 years now, and I love it. I still love it. It's a workhorse. It's easy to clean. It just works well. And I love that it has a temperature control. No matter what dehydrator you get, make sure it has a temperature control, because you need to be able to do that. Sometimes things just get too hot and you scorch your vegetables. So, you know, they're temperatured so that you can do jerky, which is at like 165 or so. You don't want to do you don't want to cook your vegetables. You want to dry them. So, anyway, I'll leave a link to that. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Guys, if you did enjoy it, please subscribe and share, and make sure you hit that like. And until next time, I love you dearly. I truly do. I appreciate each and every one of you. It's important for me to share my journey, and it's important for me to hear what you have to say. Maybe you know a different way, a better way. Maybe you see something that it's like, maybe you should try this. I'm open. Let me have it. Just be nice. Just be nice. But anyway, guys, I love you. I appreciate you. Until the next video. Mwah!